Our next story here is out of Minnesota, where we have a whistleblower lawsuit with an officer who claims that he was forced to use ketamine on arrestees. What do we have here?
Yeah, so this story comes from The Intercept, who interviewed Joseph Baker, who has worked as a paramedic for the emergency medical services in Woodbury, which is a suburb of St. Paul, Minnesota. This whistleblower lawsuit says that, quote, police pressured him to administer ketamine, a fast acting sedative, during an arrest. He believes that it's not an appropriate use of his job as a paramedic to have to apply this. And this lawsuit's apparently a first of its kind whistleblower lawsuit against ketamine use by the police. As in, there's really nobody else who has gone to the step of challenging this. But we've also seen a trend in the last few years to start relying on this sedative. For context, back in 2019 in Colorado, Elijah McClain, who was a 23-year-old, a young black man, he died from a police chokehold in the summer of 2019. The Aurora police injected McClain with ketamine while in handcuffs. That has resulted in Colorado lawmakers pushing for restrictions on the use of sedatives that are, applied against the will of individuals who are placed under arrest. So Baker says that he feels he was pushed out of his job after refusing to administer ketamine in an incident in September 2019. And prior to that, he had to give ketamine injections on 3 other occasions as part of the Woodbury EMS. And he recalled a trigger happy mentality in the department around the drug. That's according to the Intercept's report. And Baker says, quote, the dispatchers would say, get your ketamine ready, bring your ketamine, he said. And his lawsuit claims that the, quote, symbiotic relationship between EMS and police officers has created room for police officers to coerce paramedics like himself to administer ketamine on unwilling subjects. Another thing he points out is that he was someone who studied de-escalation. He's very big about what he calls verbal judo as an EMS person. He has a background as a military police officer, but as he lays out here, he says he believes it's a powerful weapon to be able to use language to de-escalate. He's someone who thinks he can convince people to communicate about 90% of the time. And he said he would try to humanize himself when he was working as an EMS or as a paramedic. He would talk to patients about their family. He might talk about sports with them while they were going through whatever it is he was responding to. And he says, quote, I was also aware that my uniform was very similar to that of a police officer, which is inherently stressful, especially to patients with mental illness. And so this is obviously very topical at the moment with what's going on in our country. And I think this is an important whistleblower lawsuit to pay close attention. And as he says, he would rather use talking and conversation than the crutch of injecting people with some drug against their will. And that can work. He says those words can actually work when he is working as an EMS.